And we're ready to start. We're going to start laying down today, so find your way to your yoga mat. Take your time as you get settled in. Grab any extra props or blankets or pillows, whatever you need to be nice and comfortable. Go ahead and lie down if that feels good to you in this moment. Maybe finding your way to some kind of shavasana, corpse pose position. Maybe bending your knees and standing your feet up in constructive rest pose. You could let your knees go out wide or bringing them in to touch at the center kind of, I feel, seems much more relieving and relaxing to me. But you find your own way here, letting your arms find comfort and stillness. Letting your whole body find some kind of comfortable or interesting position here. And as you arrive, as always, we just take a moment to scan through the body so you get a nice, somewhat clear picture of how your body is feeling, where your energy levels are at. So just go ahead and scan your awareness through your body in no particular order. Maybe starting at your toes, maybe starting at your head. Just see how things are now. Noticing how your mind or your body responds to lying down. If you're like many people, you don't usually have a lot of moments during the day that you're lying down, so just noticing how welcome that may feel. And then taking a brief rewind of your day, just kind of remembering what you've done so far in your day, any emotions that you can identify throughout your day, and especially in this moment. And a reminder that sometimes emotions are confusing. Sometimes they're hard to name. Sometimes we want to avoid them. But just for now, you don't have to linger in them too long, but just kind of seeing one or two emotions, perhaps, that are present. And then begin to notice your breath. And before you go changing anything, just see how your breath is flowing, which parts of your lungs or your body feel like they're moving or breathing into. Are you breathing up into the upper chest or down into the belly, or are your breaths feeling deep or shallow, quick or slow? Does it feel challenging or easy? And if you're like me, you might have already started kind of correcting, so to speak, your breath. If you haven't quite done that yet, maybe you start to embody a deep breath. So, what can that feel like for you today? A nice deep breath. Are you breathing through your mouth or your nose? Drawing the air down, deep and low, down to the lowest parts of your lungs so that your belly begins rising first. Then you might notice a little expansion outwards through the rib cage, maybe a little movement in the chest, who knows? And exhaling, just letting everything release. Go ahead and breathe like that a few times. Very present, very aware with what's happening with your inhales and exhales. Notice your facial features. Make sure they're nice and soft and smooth. Maybe a slight smile, if that feels right. Sometimes I can kind of sweeten the pose or the moment. And if you would like to set a dedication or intention for your practice today, now is a great time to consider that. Maybe calling to mind an emotion you'd like to cultivate or feel. Maybe there's a goal or a desire that you'd like to focus on. Maybe there's a person or group of people in your life that you want to dedicate this time to. And then we'll take 3 clearing breaths, inhaling through your nose, sighing it out of your mouth. 2 more like that, go right ahead. And if your practice includes movement today, let's start to wiggle fingers and toes. If you're looking for more of a restful practice, maybe you stay put and keep resting through some or all of the rest of the movement. It's always up to you. Go ahead and just move your arms in any which way, just awakening the arms, maybe bending your elbows or circling your wrists or some other way. Moving your toes and your ankles. And we're heading toward a long body stretch. So straightening the legs, reaching up through the arms, reaching and stretching, and maybe some cracking of the toes or any other joints that feel a little cracky today. Okay, oh, that feels nice. Let's go for a banana pose. Moving, walking those heels over toward the right edge of your mat. And then grabbing hold of that left wrist and directing your upper body also toward the right. So you feel some side bend and some lengthening through that left side of your body. Sending your breath to the left lung. Feeling those rib muscles stretching just between the rib bones called intercostals. They help us breathe. And eventually switching sides, walking your heels over toward the left edge of your mat, and then grabbing hold of the right wrist or arm and gently directing the upper body toward the left as well. So now we're side bending and feeling that opening, that bending, that stretching through the right side of your body. Breathing into that right lung and seeing how much the breath can play with this pose. And then go on back to center. We're gonna roll onto the right side in the fetal position. We'll do a little of my favorite Feldenkrais twists, they are called. So we're just lying on the right side, knees kind of tucked in. That right arm will straighten off to the right side, and the left hand will stack on top of your right hand. Your head might be on the floor or kind of lifted, whatever feels good. Press and reach the left fingertips beyond your right fingertips. You feel your shoulder blades stretching out. The shoulder blades are getting farther apart from each other. This is called protraction. And then we will retract the shoulder blade. So we're pulling that left hand across your right arm, keeping the fingertips connecting to the body. Slide those fingertips across your collarbones, and then open that left arm out wide. Any amount of twist here. Maybe that left arm stays lifted. Maybe it touches the floor. And let your gaze kind of just follow along. Maybe you end up looking toward the left. So we're in this nice open arm twist. Stay here for a little while, and then if you'd like to experiment with movement, we can open and close in this way a few times. Closing up, we'll bend the left elbow, bringing your left fingertips to your left shoulder. Slide the hand across your collarbones and all the way down your right arm, just like you're moving in sleep. So there's no big rush. We're just kind of flowing through it a little bit. And then keep reaching that left hand beyond your right hand. So again, you feel your shoulder blades nice and wide. And pulling that hand back, coming into your twist at your own pace. And you might notice when the arms are out wide, our shoulder blades are actually quite close together. This is that retraction position. And maybe today I'm feeling a lot of stretch through that left shoulder, that left armpit. Maybe you're feeling it somewhere else as well. Go ahead and open and close a few times if you'd like, or linger in any of the positions in between. This is really good for our kind of patterning of the shoulder blade movement, that protraction, retraction movement. Some consider this kind of a nerve glide, which essentially just means we're getting things moving in a healthy pattern. And who doesn't like a good twist? I think it feels so good. All right, this is a good one to do before bed, or if you're trying to motivate yourself to get out of bed, this could be a really nice one to do from bed. All right. When you're ready to move along, let's meet with the hands stacked together on the right side. We're going to move into crocodile pose. So just turning face down. It doesn't have to be too graceful, just kind of turn it onto your belly. You can stack your hands or your fists underneath your forehead, or grab a block, some kind of support underneath your forehead. Let your forehead rest down on your hands or your support. Let your heels splay out to the sides. And then take 3 diaphragmatic breaths here. And it's going to feel different because we have some resistance with the floor. So taking that belly breath, 3 rounds, breathing down deep into the belly. Feel that floor resisting the expansion, and just keep breathing anyway. And we're exhaling to soften, letting your shoulders be kind of relaxed. Just 3 breaths like that. Breathing in, filling up. Exhaling as you release it. And whenever that last breath is done, we'll just start to transition to the left side, coming to that fetal position. This time on the left, knees kind of tucking in a little bit. Left arm is straight out to the left side, and that right hand is stacking on top of your left. Reach those right fingertips farther away than your left fingertips, so your shoulder blades are really spreading out, protracting. And go ahead and retract, pulling your right hand across your left arm, across your collarbones, and your version of all the way open. Go ahead and linger there for a little bit if you want. And then playing a little bit with the opening and closing motion. This time we're bending the right elbow and bringing the right hand to the right shoulder, kind of like the head of the shoulder, and then sliding across the collarbones and all the way down until your hands meet again. Go ahead, play with this a couple times through. This is our Feldenkrais method twist. That is not technically a yoga pose or movement, but the Feldenkrais method is a movement modality. And this movement just is one of my favorites. Such a nice way to get into a twist. Okay. When you've had enough, we'll close it on up, bringing the hands together on that left side, and then you use the help of your hands to press up to a comfortable seat. We're going to move right along to hands and knees though, so sweeping those legs back behind you. We'll come to tabletop position for cat and cow. So spreading your fingertips, gripping your hands into the floor, knees beneath the hips, that's what they're called. With your inhale, start to lower your belly, lift your tailbone, and then your gaze pressing into the floor, finding your cow pose. And exhaling to round your spine up, tucking your chin, tucking your tailbone, pressing the floor here to cat pose. Go ahead and continue at your own pace, inhaling to cow, gaze lifting, belly lowering. Exhaling to cat, rounding the spine up. Good, good. When you're ready to move to extended child's pose, we'll bring the knees out wide toward the edges of your mat, touching your big toes behind you. Start to sink your seat toward your heels. And remember that if that doesn't feel good on your knees, you can always kind of stay more upright and come down to your forearms or walk your hands out toward the top of your mat and then sink your head and heart down toward the floor without sinking your knees or your tailbone back. You choose your adventure here, finding the right position for your day today. And go ahead and take some more of those diaphragmatic breaths. We're really getting into the breath work here. It's good to kind of train your body for those low and slow breaths through your nose if possible. And I like the cue here to breathe all the way down to your sacrum. That's that bone that connects the pelvis to the spine. So just breathing deep down. Somehow that just feels way deeper than just breathing into the diaphragm to me. Even though I think it's kind of similar mechanisms. Energetic cues sometimes can just be kind of magical. All right, when you're ready, let's come back up to tabletop. We will find our way to downward dog, grabbing your blocks if you have them and like to use them, bringing those up to the top of the mat. But blocks or not, we're still gonna have a nice solid base with the hands gripping into the floor or into your blocks. Like you could pick up your blocks, like you're really gripping into them. Curl your toes under, start to pick up those knees, reach your tailbone back and up. Push through your hands and your shoulders so they're reaching and active. Find your breath, make sure you are committed to your long breathing patterns. If you want to bend and straighten opposite knees, you can go ahead and pedal it out. Sometimes it's nice to come up to the tippy toes together and then down or bend the knees at the same time. So just playing with this first downward dog. If it ever feels like too much to be in this position, if you ever have a stuffy nose or a headache or anything, you can always take this from the wall, bringing your hands up against the wall or against a chair. You can kind of get that same type of effect. Also really good if you have any kind of wrist or arm ailments. Let's have about one more big breath in and out here. And then when you're ready, bending your knees, look up to your hands, and then step or walk your feet up to the top for ragdoll forward fold. And we'll have at least a little bend of the knees. Let your upper body hang kind of loose here. Maybe finding a little bit of swaying side to side. Maybe pedaling your legs out a little bit here. We're still breathing, I hope. And letting your head kind of be loose. You might kind of nod your head yes or no. Or kind of stretch, reaching one ear toward its shoulder and vice versa. All right. Let's start to bend the knees deeper, tuck your chin toward your chest, and then walk your hands up your legs. So you're finding kind of a supportive roll up to standing. Eventually arriving at the top, we'll take our little shake out here. So whatever just intuitively starts coming to you, maybe you shake your arms or your hands. Some people really like to lift and lower their heels, kind of bouncing the body in that way. There's no right or wrong way to do it. We're just getting the blood flowing, our circulation going. A little bit of shaking helps to kind of clear the cobwebs, get everything moving a little bit. It can become a dance. It can become a something else, a piece of art, an interpretive dance. Just a little more shaking and bouncing and moving in any which way. And then coming up to the top of your mat. So find your way up there. If you want to keep your blocks there for your downward dogs, you sure can keep them on your mat or clear them off to the side if you want. Just take a look down at your feet here. We're gonna do a little foot articulation today. So take a look at your feet. All your toes. We'll pick all the toes up, spread them out as much as you can. Hold there for a second and then set them down. Now, we're gonna just pick up the big toes. So see if you can just lift the big toes, keeping all your other toes down. Sometimes they don't want to listen, so you might bend over and kind of press all your other toes down and lift up the big toes and see if you can kind of keep that. Okay. And then lower the big toes. This time we're keeping the big toes down and lifting all the other toes. And again, if they're not really listening, push those big toes down, lift those other toes up with your hands, see if they'll stay. Okay, now we're going to switch back and forth a couple times. You choose your pace, just at some point lifting up the big toes and then lowering them and lifting up all the little toes and then lowering them. If you want to do a real brain teaser, you can lift the big toes on one foot and the little toes on the other foot and then switch. For some reason, moving your hands kind of in weird ways seems to be like what happens, like picking up the toes. I've got to like spread my fingers out. So just see if you can do that a couple more times through. This is really good for strengthening and articulating through the feet. Sometimes they just get forgotten about, but we are not forgetting about you, feet. Okay, when you're done, you could kind of stretch the toes and the ankle out by pressing the top of your, let's say, right foot down into the mat a little bit, maybe kind of wiggling it back and forth. That can feel nice on the toes or on the ankle. And then switching, just bringing the top of that left foot down to the mat, giving it a little pressure if it feels good. Stretching it out. Good, good, good. Okay. We're up at the top of the mat, taking a look down at your feet again. Make sure they're in a nice, comfortable position. With an inhale, let's reach the arms around and up. Take your time as you get to the top. We're just stretching on up. With an exhale, let's find a baby back bend. We're goal posting the arms by bending the elbows. Squeeze those glutes and leaning back as we lift the heart and the gaze up toward the sky. With an inhale, come back up to center. Exhale, swan dive, forward fold, arms reaching wide, hinging at your hips and releasing your hands toward the floor. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, hands come down to the floor or to the blocks. Let's step just that right foot back and lower your right knee down to the floor. For a lot of people, it'll feel better to toe heel your left foot out a little bit wider so you have a more stable base as we start to lift. When you're ready, let's reach those arms around and up, coming to this nice little kind of lunge-ish position. Notice that right hip flexor here. Notice the curve of your low back. We want to tuck the tailbone under a little bit, kind of like squeezing into that right glute, and you should feel quite a bit more happening through that right hip flexor, maybe through your right thigh. And we're just kind of holding here. This is really good for strengthening the core and low back. One more breath in. And breath out. Open arm twist toward the left. So that right arm reaches forward, the left arm reaches back. Keep that little tuck of the tailbone and that kind of squeezing of that right glute. See if you can hold here for another breath in. And another breath out. Come back to center. You can let your arms come down by your sides here. We're going to bring the left hand to the left hip and then reach that right hand up and over so you feel even more of an opening happening through that right hip flexor. So we're just kind of leaning over, side bending toward the left. Kind of becomes a little bit of a balance challenge here too, so just do your best. One more breath in. And then breath out. Bring your hands down to your blocks or to the floor. Curl your right toes under, pick up that right knee, and then step your left foot back to your high plank. I used to really hate high plank. Now I've grown to love it. Let's just be here for one breath though. We're inhaling. And we're exhaling to lower the knees. Move those blocks to the side if you're using them, and then lower your chest down to the floor. Flatten the tops of your feet down to the mat. If your blocks are next to you, we're going to kind of move them a little farther away so they're not in our range of movement here. We're going to do a little bit of baby cobra with some extra movement to strengthen our upper body. So press the tops of your feet down so much that your knees start popping up off of the floor. You feel those glutes working. Your lower body is very engaged. Now I want you to be the judge of this pose for yourself. We don't want to go too far. If it feels like that at any moment, just come back to your normal baby cobra. We're going to lift up to baby cobra here. So the head and chest just slightly lifted. Maybe go about 50%. You don't have to go as far as you can here. Really gripping through the core. We're going to lift the hands up by our sides, kind of like cactus arms. Breathe here. Option to stay right here or begin to reach the hands forward with the palms facing down. And then with your exhale, sweeping your arms around and then back by the sacrum with the palms facing up. So the hands could rest down at the sacrum with the palms facing up. With your inhale, we're reaching the arms back out and up toward the top of the mat, palms facing down. Exhale, hand sweep back, resting on the sacrum. It's quite difficult. Or it's quite a challenge here. Let's do it just one more time. Inhale forward. Exhale back. One last breath in. Exhale, lower down, crocodile pose. Stack your hands or your fists and rest your forehead on top. Let those heels splay out to the sides. And maybe rock your hips kind of side to side as you let your low back just kind of soften up after that work. 3 big diaphragmatic breaths here. When you're ready, we'll plant those hands next to the chest, press your way up to tabletop, and then back to child's pose, just to open up that low back even more. We're taking a couple breaths. You could sway a little bit through the shoulders side to side if you like. You could come up to your fingertips if you like, or just take it in that classic way. And with an inhale, let's rise back up to tabletop. Getting your blocks in place if you like to use them, and then exhaling to downward dog. 3 breaths here. Nice big inhale. Feel your hands, each fingertip gripping down. And exhale. Inhale, reach through those shoulders. And exhale. Last breath in, you got this. Last breath out. Inhale, bend your knees, look up to your hands, and with your exhale, step on up to the top, forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, fold. Plant your feet down into the ground. Inhale, sweep those arms around and up, joining hands overhead, option to look up. Exhale, hands come down to your heart center. Take a few breaths, maybe closing your eyes as you find this heart center, this balance position. Samastitihi, it's called, equal standing pose. And take a clearing breath, inhaling through your nose. Sigh it out. Inhale, reach high. Exhale, baby back bend, squeezing those glutes to protect the low back. Inhale, rise back up. Exhale, fold. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, step just that left foot back and lower your left knee down. If it felt good to toe heel your other foot out, maybe that right foot kind of toe heels out wide, so that when you reach around and up, you're a little more stable. Notice that left hip flexor, notice that left glute, tucking the tailbone under, engaging through your left glute. See if you can feel a little more opening and strength through that left hip flexor and that left thigh. Really reaching upward like you're lengthening up. Take a breath in. Exhale, open arm twist toward the right. Feeling your strength here, breathe. Keep that left glute engaged. Left hip getting a lot of love. All right, with your inhale, come back to center. And then exhale, lower your hands down. We're gonna bring the right hand to the right hip or somewhere. And then reach that left hand up and over so that we're feeling just a little more opening and stretch through the left side and that left hip. One more breath in. And breath out, bringing hands down to those blocks or the floor. Curl the left toes under, pick up that left knee, and then step your right foot back to your high plank. Much easier to do when your hands are up on blocks, I must say. One more breath here in high plank. Exhale, lower your knees, move those blocks to the side, and then lower your chest. We're gonna do one more round of that kind of, I want to call it like swimming baby cobra, which sounds terrifying, doesn't it? Swimming baby cobra. All right, pressing the tops of your feet down into the mat. Start to lift your way about halfway up into your baby cobra. So don't go as high as you can, just about halfway. Pull your shoulder blades back behind you. When you're ready, inhaling to lift your hands up off of the floor and then reaching forward. With your exhale, swim those arms around and back. Palms end up stacked on top of each other at the sacrum, the low back. Inhale, swim those arms around and up, palms facing down at the top. Exhale, swim them back. One last time. It's okay if it feels like a challenge. It's kind of meant to be. Inhale forward and exhale back. Staying back here, hug those shoulder blades together for one more breath in. And breath out, lower down to crocodile pose, stacking your fists or your hands, and then resting your forehead on top. Just a couple of diaphragmatic breaths here, bringing yourself back into a nice regulated state. Just about one more breath like that. You can always stay longer if you want. And then when you're ready, planting your hands next to your chest, press up through your tabletop and back to child's pose. 2 breaths in child's pose. One more nice big breath in and out. With an inhale, rise up to tabletop. Grab those blocks if you want to keep using them, and then eventually using an exhale to transition back to your downward dog. 3 breaths in your downward dog, inhaling and exhaling. Inhale, think about creating more length from the fingertips to the tailbone. And exhale. Last breath in. Last breath out. Inhale, bend your knees, look up to your hands. Exhale, step to the top. Forward fold at the top. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, fold. Press down through your feet. Inhale, rise on up, reaching your hands together overhead. And exhale, bring it down to heart center. Close your eyes if you'd like, and just spend the next couple of breaths coming back to your center. Figuring out what that is, what that means to you today. And then taking a clearing breath together, we'll inhale through the nose. Big sigh to let it out. Good. Go ahead and open your eyes if they were closed. Let's bring the hands down by the sides. We'll do a little bit of balancing, and we're going to do a balancing play session today. So get ready for fun. We will come to a nice standing position. Take a look at your feet, maybe rock forward and back on them a couple of times so you're feeling like planted down. And we'll find all the weight here shifting over to the right foot. And if you're not wanting to have fun today, I understand. You can come to tree pose and just kind of bring that left foot in. If you do want to experiment with some fun, we're just going to lift that left foot up a little bit, maybe finding a one-legged mountain pose-like position. Your toes can stay down on the floor here, or you might lift it up. Here's where the play starts to happen. We're just focusing on keeping the right foot down on the floor and the left foot up. And I want you to try experimenting with any other little movements. Maybe your arms move in different directions. Maybe that left foot kind of swims around and back. Just go nice and slow so that you're giving yourself a challenge, but you're not setting yourself up for failure. If you move too fast, it's really easy to get unbalanced quickly. So just like you're doing some kind of swimming through space here, we're just keeping that left foot lifted. The arms can move a little bit here. Just go ahead and experiment. You might move your hands to one side and your foot to the other side. Maybe you try to bring your foot and your hands to one direction. If you don't have to step down at some point, maybe you're not exploring far enough. Who knows? Maybe you are. You could, if you run out of ideas, you could come to tree pose and just continue this play sesh there. Maybe you bend into that right knee a little bit and then straighten it. Whenever your right foot tells you you've had enough, go ahead and step on down. Shake out that right leg a little bit. And we've got one more shot for fun here. So we'll bring all the weight into that left foot. Start to pick up your right knee a little bit. Again, you can always keep your toes down on the floor and just kind of trace like circles around you, or stand close to a wall so you have more support. But whenever you're ready, go ahead and play. We're just keeping that right leg lifted in some way as you go. It could become kind of like a dance or a Tai Chi like movement. Maybe you lean forward or to the sides a little bit. Maybe you see just how far you can go in any certain direction. And it doesn't have to look graceful, as long as you're having a little bit of fun. That's all it really counts here. We're working on our balance, but we're doing it in kind of strange ways, which I find to be really welcome. All right. Whenever that left foot just is getting a little too tired, you can go ahead and step it down. Whew, shake it out. Really interested to know what you thought about that balancing practice. You'll have to let me know what you think. For now, we are headed back down to the floor, so go ahead and make your way there. Slowly, mindfully transitioning to your back. And when you get down to your back, let's pull the knees in and take a little bit of free movement, circling your knees a little bit, or rocking side to side, or up and down. We're just getting some massaging pressure going through the low back and the sacrum, and maybe the hips a little bit, maybe the glutes a little bit. Where else can you make that pressure feel good? And at some point here, we will transition to happy baby by reaching, well, you could keep hanging on to your knees or behind your legs here, or if you can reach, maybe grabbing onto the inside or outside edges of your feet, or grabbing onto the big toes and pulling your knees in toward the armpits. You can stay steady here or make it into a little bit more of a play by rocking a little bit or by straightening one leg and bending the other. Somehow exploring what this happy baby has for you. And then if there are any last poses, movements, twists, or stretches that your body is asking you for, go ahead and continue to move until you feel ready for your final resting pose. And at that time, then getting nice and cozy, maybe finding the same position you started in, or finding a new one, perhaps. So maybe constructive rest pose with your feet standing up at the edges and your knees coming into center, or perhaps corpse pose, shavasana. Just taking your time with each little movement and refinement so that you're feeling just so taken care of, just so comfy. And when you get there, give your body full permission to rest. No more thinking or engagement through the muscles needed for now, for the most part. Maybe sighing or yawning as you settle in. And I have a little reading here from Robert Adams that I'd like to share. So according to Robert Adams, silence is another name for God. Quietness is a name for consciousness, or peace. Everything is found in silence and not too much in the words. in quietness. You should try to be quiet for as long as you can, especially when you are at home. Try to sit in the silence and quietness for as long as you can. It's in the silence where you will receive the message. It's in the silence where pure awareness reveals itself to you. Never be afraid to sit in the silence. It can be your greatest asset. Sinking deeper into this rest, into these last couple minutes here of silence. Softening your jaw and your face. Deeper into rest. Deeper into silence. And please remember that you can always stay here and rest longer. No need to move sooner than you're ready. But eventually, when that time comes, choose to reawaken your body in a nice, gentle, kind way. Maybe a little wiggle of your fingers and your toes. Maybe rolling your tongue around your teeth, or swallowing or yawning. Taking your time as you eventually roll over onto either side, finding that fetal position once more. Taking a full round of breath in the fetal position, symbolic of reawakening and rebirth. Just a little bit fresh in some way. And then using the help of your hands and arms, pressing up to a comfortable seated position. You might keep your eyes closed here as you join your hands in front of your heart. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Om, peace, peace, peace. Peace in our actions, peace in our words, peace in our thoughts. Bringing thumbs up to third eye center, just between and above your eyebrows, with a little gesture of gratitude if it feels right to you. We'll take a bow forward together now. Peace.